Morning, Michael.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. Who are we not going to have today? Can somebody tell me?
Morning, Lisa. I thought there was a total of 4. Maybe 5. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Tom.
Morning, everybody. Oops.
There's Randy. Hi, Randy.
Hi, guys.
Okay.
I heard the weather ladies say that the rain is going to get rid of the tree allergies. Wow.
Perfect, Tom.
Yeah, I needed that. My sinuses are terrible.
So Tony, in Tony's resignation, I didn't see any statement that he would or would not be here today. Did anybody else here?
He said he'd be here today.
He will, okay.
I agree.
And Mike, we have one continuance for today before we get started
Okay,
with the regular cases.
all right. What case number is that?
Docket item number 25.
Okay, since it's only, well, yeah, let's go ahead and take it first. There's Tom. Hi, Tom.
Good morning.
Get that downtown view, Stiller.
I'm working on it. Oh, and my lighting.
Well, I guess we can go ahead and start. Anybody have any objection to that?
We're still waiting on Sarah Baxter to join.
Oh, okay.
Before we start, Mike, you're a short timer. You know that, don't you?
Yes, I'm afraid so. Which leaves you in the hot seat.
We'll talk about that later.
You did a great job at the last meeting, Mark.
Pardon me?
I said, Mark did a great job at the last meeting.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sarah's connecting right now, so just give her a few more minutes and we'll be good to go.
Okay.
My other computer won't come on, so I can't see the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Fake it is what I guess I'll do.
Morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Okay, I think everybody's ready.
Tom Gorns, do you want me to send you the docket again? Via email?
Yes, Would you please?
I'll send it right now.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
So are we on the air with everyone?
That is correct, except for Banuki.
Hmm,
We do have 5 people right now.
Okay. Well,
Tony Banuki, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I'm just gonna say we'll give him a couple more minutes.
That's what he said. He's running a little late. He'll be here in less than 5 minutes.
Okay. I guess we could go ahead and swear in staff while we're waiting. Could we have all staff raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Do.
And let's start with Anna, and please recite your name if you're going to testify.
Anna Naniski. I do.
Jared
Jared Clements, I do.
and Nama.
Najma Mohammed, I do.
Christina,
Christina Johnson, I do.
James,
James Duddy, I do.
Andrew, is Andrew going to testify?
Not sure if
Andrew does
Andrew-
not need to testify today.
Alrighty, Lisa,
Neither does Lisa or Genevieve. I think myself, Najma, Jared, Duddy, and Christina are the only ones that need to be sworn in today.
okay. Morning, Tony.
Morning, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great, good to see you, Mr. Kelleher.
Good to see you. All right, we'll begin. I'm Mike Kelleher, I'm Vice Chairman of the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and I'd like to call this meeting of the May 24th, 2022 meeting to order. Staff has been sworn in, so I will let our staff explain to the audience how we will conduct this meeting via Zoom.
Thank you. So I'm going to briefly describe the procedures of this meeting. So overall, first, when a case is called and everyone is sworn in, city staff is going to give their staff report, and the chair is going to turn it over to the applicant team associated with the case, and then it'll be time for public testimony. For everyone online, there are 2 main categories of people who are participating at this moment. We have attendees and panelists. So panelists are the commission members and city staff. You can see all of our boxes on the screen. We have access to share our microphone and our cameras. And those are the only people who can do that at this time. When your case is called and you wish to provide public testimony, you're going to use the raise hand function in Zoom. There's a ribbon at the bottom of your screen that's got a little hand to indicate that you want to participate. So city staff can promote you from an attendee to a panelist. When that promotion happens, for a very, very, very brief moment, it'll feel like you are being disconnected from the meeting, but that is just you rejoining as a panelist, so don't panic. And then once you have been connected, we'll be asking you to turn on your microphone and your camera so you can get sworn in, and then provide public testimony at the appropriate time. To also aid in this process, it would help if your name in Zoom is changed to your legal name. That'll help with the promotion process. And I want to remind everyone that the chat box is purely to talk about like the logistics of the meeting or any functions within Zoom. Merits of the case absolutely should not be discussed in the chat box. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair.
And thank you. So I show that our first docket item is case number 157, is item number 4. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And we need to reestablish a quorum for this case since Ms. Otto is no longer serving on the board.
Right. So.
And Chairman Kelleher, don't forget, you might want to continue that case. That's docket 25.
Oh,
I
yes.
think.
Thank you. Let's do that before we call and swear in the witness. Docket number 25 is case number 00019. Is the applicant present, or what's the reason for the continuance?
Failure to post their sign
Okay, is that with or without fee?
without fee this time.
All right, is there anyone in the audience that is interested in this case and would object to a continuance? If so, raise your hand.
No one is raising their hand.
Do I have a motion to continue this case until, what's our next date?
June 14, June 14.
That's correct.
June 14th. Do I have a motion to continue this case to June 14th?
So moved, Evans.
Do I have a second?
Second, Brent.
And the chair votes with the motion. This case is continued to June 14th. Now back to docket item 4, case number 157. Is the applicant present?
I am promoting Jasmine. She's the applicant.
Okay,
Steve Bowling is also being promoted. Jasmine and Steve, remember that you also need to accept the promotion when it comes through.
okay.
Anna, did you provide the board members that were not on the quorum with the link and?
I did.
Yeah, so I'm going to cover that in a second. So the quorum in this case originally was Mr. Benuki, Mr. Evans, Mr. Gorn, and Ms. Otto. Obviously, Ms. Otto is not with us today. Ms. Mixdorf, I believe you read the transcript of the previous hearing. Is that correct?
Watch the video recording that was sent.
Yes. And how about Mr. Benuki? Did you have an opportunity to review that video of the previous hearing?
Well, I was on the quorum.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. I reviewed it.
It's
You're the
Tom.
fifth, Mike.
And I did as well.
Okay, very good. Then everyone's ready for this case. With the applicant, is it Jasmine?
Yes.
Okay, Jasmine, raise your right hand to be sworn.
And Steve Bowling will also be representing the project.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have you read your staff report for this hearing?
I have.
Do you have any objection to the admission of the 9 exhibits listed on the last page of the staff?
I do not.
So those exhibits admitted, and one of those is are we going to see the video again?
The presentation, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I'm happy to present again if you'd like.
Why don't you?
Okay, great. I'll go ahead and share my screen then.
Okay.
Okay, so before us, we have docket item number 4. This is case number CD-BZA 2021-00157, located at 130 East Linwood Boulevard, zoning district B3-2, but it is a budding residential. The applicant is seeking approval of a variance to the rear yard setback requirements. This project is within the boundaries of the Midtown Plaza area plan. More specifically, it's on East Linwood Boulevard between Main Street and Gillum Plaza. You can see it there across from the Home Depot and Costco area. So this is the original site plan that was submitted. It is generally basic because normally when people apply for a variance prior to their building permit, they're just showing the site plan, etc. This is what was submitted, showing the 800 square foot addition and how both the existing structure and the proposed structure are within the rear setback. That rear setback is imposed because of the adjacent residential that is to the rear. Let's see here. So the board was a little bit concerned about their site plan at the time. This is on a park and boulevard, and so I think they were interested in seeing a more detailed site plan, and so the applicant did provide what they intend to submit for their building permit, showing their landscaping and their site improvements, etc. You can see that here. And then, so these are the case factors for the variance. It's 11.9 feet. Substantial change to the character of the neighborhood is not anticipated. A change in design would be necessary to obviate the need for a variance for the addition. The existing structure could obviously not obviate the need for a variance. With that, I will conclude my presentation and would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Before we proceed, we're getting, well, maybe it's done now. We were getting some feedback from somebody's microphone, but it sounds like that's maybe been dissipated. As I recall, now is the site plan, has it changed from the last hearing?
The variance requested has not changed. They just showed more detail. There was, in terms of landscaping and site improvements, the board was concerned about the Park and Boulevard standards being adhered to later on during the building permitting process.
Okay, so Jasmine, would you explain to us what additional information you'd like to present today? And then we'll open it up for questions.
Yes, I have some exterior elevations and a rendering to show as well, to show how the site would be improved overall, including the facade of the building.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions?
Not yet.
So the reason for the expansion is to add for additional retail space for a successful business. And the kind of most logical space for the expansion was east of the site. There was previously concern about the parking of the site. The parking required is 9 spaces for the square foot of the retail space. And what we'll be providing is 15 spaces and 1 accessible space. Another concern was trash on the property. We will have a new trash enclosure built that can be locked to prevent trash flying away or people getting into the trash. And there will also be trash receptacles provided inside and outside the front of the property. An additional concern was vagrants on property. We will be increasing kind of camera surveillance on the property. We will also be moving the point of sale system towards the front of the building layout so that there's better kind of eyes on the property to kind of see what's going on better on the property. And additionally, we will be removing this awning that's currently there, which is dated and in disrepair. and instead just have a couple of mapes canopies, which will prevent people from hanging out too long around the site and provide with just kind of limited protection from the weather. And additionally, currently there's a wooden fence in the back of the property that people tend to kind of just like hop over. And instead we will be replacing that fence with a CMU wall to prevent people from doing that in future.
Okay, do you have anything else to add?
Jasmine, Mark Ebbets here. It looks really good what you've done here. Thank you for bringing us the site.
Yeah, we hope to overall improve the kind of character of the building and make it not an eyesore in the future, and instead be proud of what's there.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
Jasmine, can you stop sharing your screen?
Yes.
Is there anyone have a motion on this case?
Mr. Chairman,
Public testimony.
sorry about that. What?
Is there any opposition?
Hmm.
If so, please raise your hand. There was no opposition last time. Is that
No one is raising their hand.
Okay. Okay, now we're ready for a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, in case number 157, I recommend that the applicant's request be granted in accordance with the site plan and the staff report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Ebbets.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your application has been granted. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
The next case is docket number 14, case number 45. The address is 5339 North Merrimack. Is the applicant present? Please raise your hand.
Diane Hepburn is raising their hand. They are being promoted. No one else is raising their hand.
Okay, is there anyone other than the applicant interested in this case? If so, please raise your hand.
No one is raising their hand at this time.
Okay, seeing none, Ms. Hepburn, would you raise your hand to be sworn? You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, have you had an opportunity to review your staff report?
Yes, I have.
Do you have any objection to the admission of the 9 exhibits listed on the last page?
I do not.
We'll show them admitted, one of which is a presentation that staff has prepared. Please proceed with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One moment here while I share my screen. Okay, so before us, we have docket item number 14. This is case number CDBZA 2022-00045, located at 5339 North Merrimack Avenue, zoning district R-7.5. The applicant in this case is seeking approval of a variance to the accessory structure citing standards. This is the location of the subject site. It's within the boundaries of the Line Creek Valley area plan. More specifically, it's on North Merrimack Avenue. It's just west of Houston Lake in northwest Kansas City. You can see Houston Lake here. So this is the site plan provided by the applicant. You can see that the accessory structure, the garage here, is in the front yard. That is not allowed by code. The reason for that has to do with the topography of the site. You can see here there is a ravine off to the side here, making it more difficult to place accessory structure in the side yard. These are the case factors. The variance will be a complete deviation from the requirements. A substantial change to the character of the neighborhood is not anticipated. A change in siding of the garage would be necessary to obviate the need for a variance. With that, I will conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Board members, questions for staff at this point? Seeing none, Ms. Hepburn, would you explain to us why we should approve your application?
Sure. Good morning. So I would like to have an accessory building. I've overgrown my current garage. I have things sitting in my driveway now that I would like to put into a garage for aesthetically. It'd be a little bit more pleasing to see a building versus cars in my driveway. And I would also like to have them more secure so I don't have to worry about thefts. There was 5 cars stolen off my road 2 years ago. So I'd like to have everything tucked away and secure. I wish there was some other place to put this building that I did not need to go through the variance process. Unfortunately, due to the ravine and the location of my house already set back 75 feet from the road, it really limits the backyard access as well.
Okay, so the ravine prohibits you from attaching the garage to the house?
I would prefer not to attach it to the house. And also the ravine is, well, the garage, from what I read, the accessory building from the code is that it would still have to be 10 feet away from the current structure of the house. So I would still need a variance for that. Otherwise, I'd be butting right up against the edge of the ravine. And when it rains really hard, that floods.
Okay. Board members, questions?
Stand by just for a second, Chairman.
Yeah.
1 second.
Will do.
Ms. Hepburn, how tall is the garage, the accessory building going to be?
I can't give the absolute height because I haven't gotten the plans from the builder yet. I wanted to get the variance first since it requires a non-refundable deposit, but the height of the walls would be 9 feet. But I don't know how
Thank you.
tall the peak of the roof would be.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Staff, could the height of the peak prompt another need for another variance?
Only if it's not necessarily the peak. If you remember, we have a kind of interesting height definition where it has to do with the top of the uppermost beam, and that measured to the ground. I imagine if this is a standard garage that it won't need a variance. It's normally when we get into the territory of a second story or something like that that a variance is required. Our standards do allow for a typical garage to be built.
Okay, so when the permit is sought, if there's a requirement for another variance, that would provoke another application, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, any other questions from board members? If not, does anyone have a motion on this case?
Chairman Kelleher, Mark Evans here. In case number 45, I recommend the applicant be granted their request in accordance with the site plan and staff report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is it all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your application has been granted. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item is docket number 15, case number 46. The property address is 5400 Wayne Avenue. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
I am promoting an Eric Strack. They are the owner. Steve Cook has also raised their hand.
I'm sorry, who has also raised their hand?
There's an Eric, a Steve Cook, and a Karen Riley?
That's correct.
Okay. Ms. Riley, are you in support or opposition?
She's just been connected. You might want to ask your question again.
Ms. Riley, are you in support or opposition of this application?
Support.
Okay, so if you feel the need later, I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Mr. Strack, would you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Have you read or had an opportunity to read your staff report?
I have read it. Yes.
Do you have any objection to the admission of the 9 exhibits listed on the last page?
No.
Show those exhibits admitted, and one of those is a staff presentation. Please proceed with that.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Najma Muhammad. Today we have before us docket item number 15, case number CDBZA 2022-46, located at 5400 Wayne Avenue. The applicant is seeking approval of variances to the lot and building standards. Here's the subject site in relation to the greater Kansas City area. This is an aerial view of the subject site. As you can see, all of the lots on the same block face as this home have, I guess you would call a bit of a stunted rear yard because of the blocks off of the lots off of Paseo. This is an overview of the subject site's variance request. This is the request to the side yard setback requirements as they are wanting to rebuild their porch. And this is a request to the rear yard as they are wanting to add an addition of a deck. The first variance, variance A, is to the porch in the side yard. The code does not allow for porches to encroach in the side yard setback, and so they're asking for a full variance to this encroachment standard. While a change in design may obviate the need for this variance, the porch is already existing and they're simply wanting to rebuild in the same footprint that they previously had it in. The second variance to the street side yard setback is for the space itself. The street side yard setback is required to be 15 feet. In all circumstances, the applicant is requesting a variance of 5 feet from the requirement. Again, the porch is already there. They're simply wanting to redo the porch in the same footprint that it's been in for the years that they've had this home. The third variance, or variance C, is to the rear yard setback deck encroachment standards. The rear yard setback is typically 25% of the property. The applicant is requesting a variance of 4.6 feet at the rear yard, but also to the standards that require at least 20 feet in the rear yard if a applicant want to have a deck in their rear yard and they do not have the 20 feet, nor do they have the space for the standard rear yard requirement, as this is a non-conforming lot. This is an overview of all variances requested. Again, for the porch in the side yard to the encroachment standards, they're asking for 100% variance. For the lot and building standards to the street side yard, they're asking for a 5-foot variance. And to the rear yard, they're requesting a 4.5-foot variance to have a rear yard of 4.6 feet. And that concludes my staff presentation.
Staff, board members, do you have any questions for staff? Okay, Ms. Muhammad, explain to us why you need such a large porch and deck.
Well, I do not, but I'll allow the applicant to explain why they do.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we would like to have a large the deck is not very large. It's only 8 feet wide. The porch is only also approximately 8 feet wide. All we're trying to do is create a nice wraparound outdoor space since the lot is very small and the rear yard is kind of on a hill that slopes towards the Paseo, towards the rear. So we're trying to create some usable space. This home is designed to be resold as affordable housing when we're finished.
Okay.
I've got a small presentation with a rendering of what it'll look like if you'd like to see that. I
Yes,
could share.
please. Yes, please.
Let me figure
I
out how
will
to
need
share my.
to be admitted as another exhibit, and I'll need you to send that to me at the end of
I
the
can do that.
presentation.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen at this time?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can. I think everybody can. We'll designate this as Exhibit 10, and I will
Okay.
show it admitted.
So I just put together some quick photos of what the structure looks like today. You can see here is the side porch that we're talking about. These pictures are both taken from 54th Street. The structure is kind of already there with regards to that side porch. Although it's been roofed over in that one section, we would like to extend it back. And then the fence line that you can see there is the back of the property line. So we don't have enough room for even a stoop behind the structure if we have to do the 20-foot setback. You can see the lot depth is 74.25 feet. I'm zooming in so you can see a little bit better, but here's 54th Street, the rear property line. We're talking about an 8-foot deck. We would still have a rear setback of 14.6 feet after we build that 8-foot deck and a 10-foot side setback. And that just gives us, like we said, a nice wraparound area to give the future homeowner some outdoor space. The rendering is right here of what we intend for this to look like.
Okay, very good. Anything else?
That is all for me, sir.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing my screen if I can figure out how to do that. There we go.
Did I swear you in, Mr. Strike?
You did.
Okay. Questions from board members? If not, do I have a motion?
In case, Mr. Chairman, in case number 46, I recommend that the applicant's request be granted in accordance with the site plan and the staff report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your application is granted. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next case is docket item 16, case number 47. The property address is 350 Garfield Avenue. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
A Jamie Hauser is being promoted. And a Crystal Labrum, my apologies. Both have been connected.
Okay, first, Ms. Labrum, are you in support or opposition?
I'm in support. I'm one of the representatives of the contractor, the general contractor.
Okay, so
Sorry to pause you real quick. Josh Ballard has also raised their hand in the meantime.
Mr. Ballard, are you in support or opposition?
Josh was just connected, so you might want to rephrase your question.
Sure. Mr. Ballard, are you in support or opposition?
I am the homeowner. I'm definitely in support.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Is there anyone else in the audience that is interested in this case? If so, please raise your hand.
I believe you still need to swear in Jamie.
Right. Are there any other persons interested raising their hand?
Not at this time.
Okay. Mr. Hauser, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear a testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? I think you must be muted. I didn't hear that.
I do.
There we go. So have you had a chance to review your staff report?
Yes, we have.
Do you have any objection to the admission of the 9 exhibits listed on the last page?
No.
Show those exhibits admitted, one of which is a staff presentation, which we'll see now.
Okay, a quick point of clarification. He'll be presenting on behalf of the homeowners today, so we can make sure we have all the proper parties sworn in. Will it be Jamie or Crystal?
Crystal.
Okay, Crystal needs to be sworn in.
Crystal, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Staff, okay. Please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Before us, we have docket item number 16, case number CD-BZA 2022-47, located on 350 Garfield Avenue. The applicant is seeking approval of variances to the lot and building standards. This is the location of the subject site. This is an aerial view of the subject site. As you can see, this is the principal structure here and then accessory structure in the rear of the lot off of East Missouri and Garfield Avenue. These are pictures of the portion of the home that struck the need for this variance. As I'm sure the applicant will explain in greater detail, essentially this is a portion of the home that protruded out into the side yard setback, and upon rebuilding this structure, permits was made aware of the complete tear down and rebuild of the structure, which caused the need for a variance to the side yard setback, as the primary structure is already built into the setback because of the age of the home. This again shows the portion of the property that caused the need for this variance. The first variance is to the street yard setback. The applicant is requesting a variance of up to 15 feet from the requirement. Will this produce a substantial change? No, it will not. This was an already existing structure. They simply established a portion of the structure that was falling apart. And yes, a change in design may obviate the need for this variance, but again, they're reestablishing what was an already existing structure. To the rear yard setback, the applicant is requesting a variance of up to 100% from the requirement. As you can see, there is a portion of the property that sits right on the rear property line. This was already existing prior to the need for this variance, so it will not present a substantial change. And in order to change the design, they would have to remove the building or move the building that is currently there. This is an overview of all of the variances. And it is unknown because of the lack of proper site plans and time. But again, as you can see, they're simply wanting to bring the current structure into compliance. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff from board members? Seeing none, Ms. Labram, would you like to tell us why we should grant your request?
Yes, I'd like to share my screen really quickly. Oh, sorry, trying to present here. So
Are you
here is
admitting this? Excuse me. Are you admitting this as a part of your own presentation?
Yes, is that okay?
Okay, that's fine. It'll just need to be admitted as an exhibit.
Okay.
Yeah,
I believe I
we'll
did.
designate that as exhibit number 10 and show it admitted.
So this is a look at the property site plan. The scope of work that we were working on is the interior renovation of this existing 1889 home. As you can see in red is the setback line that falls almost right in the middle of the living room and about a third into the existing structure of the home as it was originally built. Per tax records and things, we've seen that this box in yellow was there as far back as the 1940s, so that has been existing. So right now the plan is to include that as part of their kitchen. This is a family of 8, so they are really in need of storage. So this was being used in a similar fashion to how it was previously and not to extend beyond the existing footprint. The reason that we had to affect the structure at all was to remove the plumbing house trap that was below this room. So here's a photo of the plumbers digging to remove that house trap. And as you can see, we had to undo quite a bit of the framing. So in order to put it back correctly, we had to reframe a lot of that and reconnect the ledger boards to the structure. This was an existing photo. And the way that we're planning to use it is, again, an extension of the kitchen space to allow them to have a second refrigerator and additional storage from their kitchen. And that's all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do you have any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
And if I can jump in, the motion for this needs to be executed clearly so staff has direction on how to move forward with this variance, because as Najma presented, we don't know the exact amount of the variance being requested because of the materials provided to us. So keep that in mind when you are forming your motion.
So what materials would we need to be sure of the exact amount?
We need a formal survey similar to the first slide she showed in her presentation. We would need to see a survey to scale. We'd need to be able to measure the side yard setback, the rear yard setback on our software. So we'd need to see those proper measurements on a site plan. So in relation to the property line.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
But again, because it's an existing structure, you all are able to provide a variance of 100%. However, the variances move with the land. So if someone else were to come and build on this property or tear the current home down, hopefully not, but if that were to happen in the future, those variances would still apply. So if you provided a 100% variance to the street yard setback or to the rear yard setback, someone would be able to build again up to those setback lines. If you want exact measurements, then you may want to continue this to the June docket and allow them to provide a survey. But if you all are okay with just providing a 100% variance to what the requirement is, that is what we have for you today.
So are you saying that if we grant the variance, someone could come in, tear down the structure and still take advantage of the variance?
Correct.
I'm just one board member, but I'd rather see a survey provided by the applicant and continue this to next month.
I agree.
Okay, Ms. Labram, if you really oppose the continuance, we can see what the board feels about your case.
I would like to say something, and I don't know if the homeowner would also like to speak, but this was a bank funded project. The homeowners were given a finish date of April. They've been having to pay substantial amounts of money to stay out of the home while this issue is being resolved. And they're paying a daily interest rate percentage every single day that they're out of this house and not able to close on their loan. They're losing money. So we're not trying to go out and do anything crazy. We're using the exact foundation walls that were there. The engineer has that recorded as well. We haven't repoured a foundation. We're not making it larger. It is in line with the existing brick exterior. I think that's all I'd like to say. Josh, do you have anything?
And yes, I would like to speak. This has definitely been a emotional duress for sure in the midst of this. We purchased this home in August, and we have been through many difficulties in trying to move this project forward. We waited approximately 4 months for our first set of permits from the city to even begin working on our property. And pardon me, I'm trying to stay composed here. This has been difficult. Our first interest rate lock expired in March. And as Crystal noted, we have been paying for extensions to that interest rate lock as interest rates continue to balloon right now to the tune of $82 a day. And as noted, we are a family. We just want to have our house the way that it was when we purchased it. We'd like to be able to finish our project and get to move into our home.
Well, I certainly understand your frustration, and obviously I understand the cost involved. Would anyone on the board feel a good idea to go into executive session to discuss this with our legal counsel?
Yes.
If so, we would need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 610.021 RSMO.
I would like to make that motion, Mr. Kelleher, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Well, I've got to call the roll. Mr. Gorin, Mr. Ebbets,
Yes, aye.
Ms. Mixdorf,
Aye.
Mr. Stiller.
Aye.
And the chair votes with the motion. We will go into closed session.
I vote with the motion too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who did I forget?
Mr. Benucci.
Anna or Lisa, can you send us all a link, a different link?
I am working on it right now. Everyone will be receiving a Microsoft Teams link. It's going to take me a little bit. Bear with me.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm working on it right now.
Mike, Evan's here, it takes me maybe a minute to get this link going, but I'll be there eventually. Thank you.
Okay, me too.
Michael, your microphone's on.
Okay.
And I have not received the link yet.
Neither have I.
Okay, just checking.
Randy, have you received it yet?
Looks like it just came through.
Okay.
You might need to turn off your video on Zoom in order to get the teams to go.
This is Tom Gorentz. I have not received it.
Tom and Randy, I just resent you the link. Gorens, you've been resent the link and the phone number.
Coming back, Mike Kelleher.
Okay, I should be back. Everybody else back? Okay, do I have a motion to resume regular session?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Evans.
Okay, and I'll call the roll. Mr. Gornt,
Here.
Ms. Mixdorf,
Aye.
Mr. Ebbets,
Aye.
Mr. Benuki,
Aye.
Mr. Stiller,
Aye.
and chair votes with the motion. We will resume regular session. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Is anybody else?
I am too. Somebody's not muted somewhere.
Getting it too.
I think, Mr. Kelleher, maybe you still have Teams open. It sounds like it's coming from you, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe it's gone now.
I don't have any feedback any longer.
Either.
I don't either, but did we lose Mr. Kelleher? I don't see him.
Yeah, he dropped off.
Welcome back, Mike. You're muted, Mike. Mike, you're muted.
Okay, I reconnected. Is that better?
All good on mine.
Okay, so resuming our case, let's see, participants. Okay, applicants, we've tried every way we can think of to help you out in this situation. But we cannot move forward without some specific numbers as to the amount of each variance you're requesting. And, you know, I'm advised that you were told this before and have been unable to provide that information. And our hands are tied until we do. Now, we have two architects on the board, and they think that perhaps if we put your case on pause, that you can go to Google Maps, et cetera, and come up with some distances and some numbers that would be specific to your request. So we've got at least another hour worth of hearings. So I think we're going to hold your case and allow you to try and put those numbers together for us. Is that, do you understand what we're asking?
During this session?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. And that site plan that I did provide did show the 15-foot setback, but I can pull up where the existing line is. I believe it's 7 feet from the property line.
Okay, so what we're looking for is a a number to assign to each variance request.
Does that include the buildings that we're not affecting, like the existing outbuildings, the carriage house and all of that that's sitting right on the boundary line?
Yes, if there,
Just on this south side.
Once it's been brought before the board, the goal is to bring the entire property into compliance. And so the variances to the rear would be required as well. If you go on Parcel Viewer, we have a measuring tool that you can use for that.
Yep. Okay. Yep, I have that right in front of me, so I'm able to do that right now.
okay, well, very good. We'll let, let's see, let Anna know when you're ready to resume with the numbers, and we'll call your case again, okay?
Just through the chat.
Yes.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the next case, which is docket number 17. The property address is case number 48. The property address is 1001 West 59th Terrace. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
John Wind, he keeps raising his hand, demoting it. He is the applicant. I'll see if he rejoins shortly. But there's also a Brendan.
Franzoni.
Correct.
Who was the first?
John Wind, he is the applicant. You have to accept the promotion.
Okay.
As well. Okay. John Wind and Brendan have both been connected.
Gentlemen, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Have you read or reviewed your staff report for this case?
Yes.
Do you have any objection to the admission of the 9 exhibits listed on the last page?
No.
Those exhibits will be admitted. And we'll have staff proceed with their presentation at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Give me one moment here to share my screen. So before us, we have docket item number 17. This is case number BZA 2022-00048, located at 1001 West 59th Terrace, zoning district R6. The applicant in this case is seeking approval of a variance to the rear yard setback requirements. So this is the location of the subject site in relation to the rest of the city. It's within the boundaries of the Country Club Waldo area plan. More specifically, property is on the southwest corner of the intersection of West 59th Terrace and Bellevue Avenue there. You can see it just off of Ward Parkway. This is the applicant's site plan. So of importance in this case is there is an existing garage on the subject site. They are proposing infilling the area between the residence and the garage. Once they are connected, by our code, that garage, which was allowed to encroach in the setback as a separate accessory building, then is encroaching as an attached building. So they're proposing basically connecting the two structures and adding an addition here in this case. So these are the case factors for the variance. The variance will be 9.1 feet to the rear yard setback requirements. A substantial change to the character of the neighborhood is not anticipated as the garage is existing. The infill of the breezeway could not be completed without the variance. Because the structure is existing in compliance, the only obviation of the difficulty other than a variance would be to not connect it to the home or build the addition, but it would have to be 10 feet away, which I think would take up most of the space that is proposed in between. With that, I will conclude my presentation.
Any board members have questions of staff? Okay, who's wants to testify?
That'll be me, John Wind with Piper Wind Architects.
Okay, please proceed, Mr. Wind. Tell us why we should grant this application.
Thank you for your time. I have in front of you, if you can see my screen, the original house drawings. It was built in 1952. And the site plan illustrates the existing garage with a one-story porch that connected to the two-story house. So the setback, 30-foot setback, is right above the word garage. What we're proposing, and let me show you the existing elevations of the house. So in the lower right-hand corner is the front elevation of the two-story house. And lower left-hand corner is the elevation as viewed from Bellevue, the side elevation. So you can see the existing house had a connector that connected to the existing garage. Switch gears here. So as Mr. Clements pointed out, we're infilling essentially between the house and the garage, but at some point, I think the zoning changed because this existing setup with the porch connector apparently was conforming at one time and now it's non-conforming. The point I want to make is the two-story addition that we're proposing, you can see in the lower left-hand corner, is fully within all the setbacks. So the work we're proposing doesn't necessarily require the variance. The variance is required because the existing construction is non-conforming. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, we'll identify Mr. Wynn's entire presentation as Exhibit 10 and show that exhibit admitted. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Wynn or Mr. Franzoni?
Mr. Wynn, any neighborhood opposition on this project so far?
None that I'm aware of.
If anyone is present and has an interest in this case, please, and wants to testify, please raise your hand.
No one has raised their hand.
Okay, then I believe we're ready for a motion.
Chairman Kelleher, first of all, Mr. Wynn looks like a nice design. Good work on that. Thanks for presenting. So, Mr. Chairman Kelleher, in case number 48, I recommend the applicant be granted their request in accordance with site plan and staff report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your application is granted. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Docket number 18 is case number 50. The address of the property is 1239 West 61st Street. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
Clint Evans is being promoted. Clint, you will need to accept the promotion. Clint has been connected. No one else is raising their hand.
Okay. Mr. Evans, you're muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Would you please raise your right hand? You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Have you reviewed the staff report in this matter?
Yes, I have.
Do you have any objection to the admission of the 9 exhibits listed on the last page?
Let me pull that up real quick.
Sure.
Okay. I apologize. It's taken a little bit.
No problem.
Chairman Keller, while he's pulling that up, you might see if I don't see him on the sheet. So as long as he's representing the owner.
Yeah, so we'll check here in a second.
Yeah, he's a member of NSPJ Architects.
Do we have we have an affidavit, correct?
Correct, sorry.
Almost there. Okay. I apologize. So I am on page
Page 3.
page 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I don't have any.
And we just need to confirm that you are with NSPJ Architects, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm co-president.
Okay. All right, we'll show exhibits 1 through 9 admitted, and Jared, would you present the PowerPoint?
I'll be presenting today. Again, my name is Najma Muhammad. Today we'll be presenting, that's okay, docket item number 18, case CD BZA 2022, case number 50 at 1239 West 61st Street. The applicant is seeking approval of variances to the accessory uses and structure standards for an accessory structure in the rear of the home. If it wants to go to the next slide, it will. Okay. This is where the subject site is located in relation to the city of Kansas City, Missouri. This is an aerial view of the subject property off of West 61st Street. This is a rendering of what the accessory structure will look like. It is to my understanding that the upper level of this accessory structure will be used as artist space and will not have any appliances associated with what we would consider an accessory dwelling unit. The bottom of the structure will be vehicular use area for their car and replacing a garage. Again, this is another view of the subject site accessory structure. The way that height is measured, again, so we have clarity, it's from the midpoint between this plate and this peak, which falls about right here. So the determination for this variance was made by this point of the structure from the average grade of the land. So variance A to the height of the structure, the applicant is requesting a variance of 4.44 feet from the requirement. Will this create a substantial change? No, it will not. It is still shorter than the primary structure on the lot, and the structure is in the rear of the home, so it's not really visible from the right of way. And yes, the change in design may obviate the need for this variance. However, again, the applicant expressed that this would be used as an artist space, and so for the sake of being able to hang the art and perform art in the space, they need higher ceilings. An overview of the variance, the required height for a detached garage is 16 feet. The proposed height for their detached garage is 20 feet. The applicant is asking for a variance in the amount of 4.44 feet. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff, board members? If not, Mr. Nguyen, would you tell us why we should grant your application?
Basically, we started out designing the garage, which is a direct reflection of the existing architecture, which is pure Dutch colonial, has the same roof lines, the typical Dutch gambrel of the existing home that was constructed. And so it was very important for the owner, who has been a lifelong artist with Hallmark cards, doing their artist work on cards, etc. Over the years, that he has a home painting studio that he's currently doing in his house, and he does extremely large canvases, and so he needs an area that he is able to maneuver those large canvases around that offers plenty of natural light from all four sides. So that is what the artist studio presents. On January 13th, we had reached out, and Najma, I sent you an email just a minute or so ago, that on January 13th, we had reached out to planning staff to verify how the average plate was measured, and it was Aisha that we confirmed. She mentioned that it was the top plate of the dormer, which is how we took the average height. We understand that the city also does have a midpoint of a roof, and it didn't necessarily specify a difference between gable or Dutch gambrel. So while we saw the Dutch gambrel as roof, and so therefore the midpoint complied with that, the Dutch gambrel roof form has provided the complication there, thus why we're looking at the variance as well. If this were a straight square, height, modern building, it would be completely inappropriate to think of raising the height of it, but because it does have the sloped roof, it's going to be much less of a visual impedance to the neighborhood, and again, be highly complementary. I know that they've shown it to 6 neighbors around them, which they all have good relationships with, and they were excited about the project.
Thank you. Board members have any questions?
Mr. Evans, on the garage or the accessory building, it's behind the home, so you really can't see it. Is that correct?
When you look from the driveway back, you will see the front Dutch gambrel dormer, if you will. It was very important. The client, one of the clients of the residents of the home, was insistent that this looked like a period carriage house, like it would always have been there, or he was not going to allow it to be built.
And is that a shared driveway?
No, it is private.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there is anyone else in the audience that's interested in this case and wants to testify, would they please signify by raising your hand?
No one is raising their hand.
If not, do we have a motion?
Chairman Kelleher, in case number 50, I recommend the applicant be granted their request in accordance with site plan and staff report.
We have a motion. Does anyone have a second?
Second.
A motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your application is granted.
Thank you.
We're about halfway through. Would everyone like a short break?
I could take a 3-minute one
All right,
or
let's,
less.
yeah, let's reconvene in 5 minutes.
Are we ready, Mike?
Well, Mr. Stiller, are you back? I don't see you. Oh, there we go. All right, let's proceed with case numbers 19.1 and 19.2. Or docket numbers. The case numbers are 51 and 52. The addresses are 2516 Northeast 34th Terrace and 2517 Northeast 34th Terrace. And those cases are going to be presented by some very familiar faces. Would you please raise your hand?
Diane Binkley has raised their hand and I am promoting her. Diane, you'll need to accept the promotion. And she has been connected.
Hello, Diane. Is Mr. Stone going to join you?
He's not.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Have you had a chance to look at the staff reports? Do you have any objection to the admission of the 9 exhibits that are listed on the last page of each report?
I have reviewed and I have no objections.
Show those admitted. And staff will now present the video presentation. Do we have 1 or 2?
I'll be presenting both of these properties in one presentation.
Okay, good. Please proceed.
Yes, sir. One moment. Good morning. Before us, we have docket item number 19 for cases number CD-BZA 2022, 51 and 52 for 2516 and 2517 Northeast 34th Terrace. The applicant is seeking approval of variances to the lot and building standards as well as the vehicular use standards. That was not a part of the staff report, but I will go into more detail later in the presentation. This is the location of the subject site here. I don't know why it was like that in the previous slide. This address here, as well as this address here, will be the topic or the sites of discussion for my presentation today. This is what the property will look like after it is built. This is for the first lot, lot number 14. This is what the lot currently looks like today. And this is the proposed site plan for the home that I showed you in the previous slide. Similarly, this is lot 15, is what the property looks like today. And this is what the proposed home looks like in relation to the lot. Variance A for case number 51 is to the front yard setback. The applicant is requesting a variance of 20.8 feet from the requirement. This will not create a substantial change to the character of the neighborhood. And no, the grade change would make the lot difficult to build on or impossible to build on. As I understand it, there's about a 30-foot drop the further you go back into the property. So pushing the home back further would be unsafe for the applicant. I will also note that these lots have been vacant for about 30 years, and Ms. Binkley can correct me if I'm incorrect. And they haven't been built on since because of the grading of the property or the contours of the land. For case number 52, similarly, the front yard setback variance is to about 20.8 feet from the requirement. This is the portion that was not in the staff report to the maximum front yard percentage pavement. My apologies for that. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow for 14% more than what the code allows for. So instead of 40%, the applicant is requesting a paved front yard of 54%. This may be obviated by a change in design, but again, these are prefab homes, and this is what the applicant is suggesting on both properties. One lot just happens to be a little bit smaller than the other. This is an overview of all of the variances for the front yard setback for case 51. The required front yard setback is 30 feet. The front yard setback that is being requested is 10.2 feet, and the applicant is requesting a variance in the amount of 20.8 feet. Similarly, for case 52, the required front yard setback would be 30 feet. The proposed front yard setback is 10.1, and the applicant is requesting a variance in the amount of 20.9 feet. The proposed or the maximum allowed vehicular used area for residential districts is 40%. The proposed is 54%, and they are requesting a variance in the amount of 14% more than what is allowed by code. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, questions from staff? If not, Ms. Binkley, do you have any photographs of the property that show the steepness that we referred to?
I believe that there were some images in the staff report that shows the topography, but I can share, if I can share my screen, I can bring that up and show you. Take me just a moment here. Am I allowed to share screen?
Sure. We'll identify your exhibits as Exhibit 10 and show them admitted in both cases.
I have this new screen and it likes to, let's see. Okay. So this is the northerly lot. And if you can see that at this point, it's 830. And here it drops, it's 800 at this back here. If you go a little further, it drops even lower. So there's a creek that runs through. This is property owned by the city of Kansas City. There you can see the city owns all of this land back behind. And then these two lots are very steep. So the distance here, even though how the lots are laid out, the homes will actually go into this a little ways. Into that treed area, but the goal is to move them forward. As you can see, it's at the end of the cul-de-sac. And so I had them lay it out to where the front door on this property will be facing towards this home, or not towards, but on the left side, so that way it will have a more open appearance and the garages would be on this side. And then similarly over here, flip the house to where the front door will be on this side, again, to relate to this home with the garages being in the middle. There's a storm drain that runs right through here. So the idea of joining the two lots, which I looked at, that won't really work because you have that big storm drain easement running through between the two houses. I have spoken, the property owner of this house here at 2511 owned both of these lots and sold them to me. So he understood when I talked to him, he understood. This development is Hills of Rock Creek, and it was developed in the late 80s. And most of the homes were built either in the late 80s or early 90s. These are the two remaining lots that were never built on. So I spoke with Kyle Smith at this property. He didn't have any concern. I spoke to these folks. They kind of like the idea of the house moving forward because then they wouldn't really see me back here in their backyard. This gentleman had some concern, mostly about tearing out all the trees. I explained to him the further I came forward, the fewer trees I would have to remove. I offered to come out and meet him on site. I talked to him here, but I offered to come back and gave him my phone number, but he never reached back out to me. I've not spoken with this individual, but didn't hear anything. And this person, I spoke with them and they didn't have any concern. Early on, I went to the Homes Association and met with them, and they gave me a letter of support. So they didn't have any concern, and actually have reached back out to see if I've received the approval yet. So I think that tells you everything. If you have any other questions, let me know.
Board members, questions of the applicant?
Ms. Binkley, Mark Evans here. Tell me about the variance on the driveway. Why do you need that?
Sure. So this property, which is actually going to be my home on this one, does not need it. But this one, because see how narrow this gets here at the front of the property? And so by moving the home forward, it ends up to where it's a 3-car garage. And so even though I'm doing this swoop, you know, to get the 3rd car driveway in, I'm not doing all the way out to the street, but it's so narrow that the percentage ends up being higher than is permitted by code by moving the house forward.
I noticed another home on that cul-de-sac had a swoopy driveway as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here and here.
Thank you.
Any other board members have questions? Is there anyone in the audience that's interested in this case and would like to testify? Please raise your hand.
Diane, can you stop sharing your screen, please? Thank you. No one else is raising their hand.
Okay. If we have no further questions, is there a motion on these cases? Do we need to refer to the 54% factor in this, anyone's motion? Staff?
Can you rephrase your question? You said, do we need to refer
Yes,
to it?
you mentioned 54% being the percentage. Do we need to include that in our motion?
Correct, or it can be in accordance with the site plan provided.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to say it verbatim.
All right, thank you. So having said that, is there a motion? Let's make the motions to include both cases, one motion, since they're both listed in the same staff report.
Chairman Kelleher, in case number 51 and number 52, I recommend that the applicant be granted their request in accordance with site plan and staff report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your requests have been granted. Good luck.
Thank you. Everyone have a great day.
You too. Okay, docket item 20 is case number 53. The address is 4330 Forest Avenue. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
Sarah Ladd has raised their hand. They are the applicant. Sarah has been connected. No one else has raised their hand.
Okay. I'm not seeing Ms. Ladd. Oh, there she is.
Sorry,
Okay.
hi.
All right. Now, who's going, would all those testifying please raise your right hand? You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Would you please state your names separately for the record?
Sarah Ladd,
Mike Yancic.
Leighton Brugman,
And I didn't get the last name very well. What was it?
Leighton Brugman, like
Okay,
Peyton with an L.
okay. Thank you. have you, who's going to testify first?
I will.
All right. Have you read the staff reports or reviewed them? Do you have any objection to the 9 exhibits listed on the last page?
I have read them and there's no objections.
To show those exhibits admitted, and staff, would you please present the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir. One moment. Good morning. Again, my name is Najma Muhammad. Before us, we have docket item number 20, case number CD BZA 2022-53, located on 4330 Forest Avenue. The applicant is seeking approval of variances to the vehicular use area and residential district standards, maximum percentage of pavement in the front yard requirements. This is the location of the subject site. This is an overview or aerial view of the subject site here, highlighted in yellow. As you can see, they're right off the Trues Corridor overlay area, even though it's not highlighted. This is the portion of the property that they own that we'll be addressing today, highlighted in red, and the variances to what you see in the gray here, what they are proposing as their pavement or parking pad for the front of this 3-story triplex. I will say you all are probably familiar with this location, as Anna brought before you all original request for the homes when they were being proposed as single family homes during the initial splitting of the lots to the lot and building standards. And so if you were wondering where this property was, it is the same property that's come before the board before. This is a rendering of what the applicant is proposing in terms of the paved front yard, almost completely paved front yard. This is a bit of a closer look as to what that may look like. I will note that this is a rendering, so this is not an empty field of green space. There are buildings behind this property that are occupied. The variance is to the maximum front yard percentage of pavement. The applicant is requesting a variance of 89.15% from the requirement. This will create a substantial change to the neighborhood. The homes that are currently located on the block all have side yard parking pads or parking to the rear of the development. This includes the multi-unit structures that are down the street. And yes, a change in design will obviate the need for this variance. The maximum allowed is 40%. The proposed percentage pavement is 89.15%. The variance is in the amount of 49.15% to the requirement, or above the requirement rather. And that concludes my staff presentation. I believe there are members of the community in the attendees list as well. I'm not sure if we were admitting them later on or not.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from board members of staff? Okay, we'd like to hear from the applicant, and please explain why we should grant this application.
Well, our why behind proposing this product is we're trying to come up with an affordable housing product for, you know, Kansas City for these infill lots. We currently build a lot in Manheim Park. We have, you know, 30 to 35 lots in Manheim. So, you know, we're trying to do our best to revitalize the area. Last year, when we started these homes, they were in the low 300,000s, which is pretty expensive for this area to start with. Now all the homes are 400 plus for the same houses that were in the $300,000 range last year. So this particular product is it's a flat over flat type unit with a finished unit in the basement. And this, a similar product to this was, there was a contest in Chicago on how to solve the affordable housing crisis. And there was, I don't know, maybe 10 different architects that proposed, you know, their version of how to help solve this affordable housing crisis. And this was one of a similar product to this style is what won the contest. And they're able to take a 30-foot wide lot, have a stacked unit on a narrow row house type of setup to be able to give a person an affordable product. So we're going to be in the 200,000s per unit. The basement unit is probably going to be about 125 to 150,000, and it'll be, you know, a 2-bedroom unit in the basement, and then 2 to 3 bedroom units in the main floor and the upstairs unit. Just kind of, we have a couple different versions of this plan. So just depending on if we were able to build this product there, you know, how many bedrooms would determine which style we picked. But that's the why behind wanting to try to do this product, is to try to come up with something that is affordable, because we're not trying to rent these units, we're trying to sell them individually. So we'll have to, you know, apply as a townhome, and we met all of the area setbacks and the lot size, and we met all of that. But obviously we do not meet the parking with as much percentage as we're over on this front yard coverage. But that is why we're proposing this type of product.
Okay, any other comments, questions from staff or board members, I mean?
What other parking layouts have you considered? I see obviously there are just the 3 kind of single stalls that drive all the way out to the roadway. Are there any other options to get 3 stalls without having that kind of width going all the way?
Not really. You know, our presentation showed the 3. I know our variance application for today was 1 address, but we thought we have 3 lots side by side. And we thought if, you know, our rendering shows 3 buildings and the parking stalls for 3, we thought if we did all 3 units, maybe it would feel more in place with the neighborhood than just doing 1. But no, without a variance to meet the townhome requirements, I believe the parking would need to be in the rear or on the side, and our lots are so tight that we cannot do that on 1 lot anyway.
But you could if you eliminated one of the structures, right?
Yes, sir, we could.
Okay, would anyone interested in this case who would like to testify, please raise their hand.
No one is raising their hand.
Okay.
So when you were considering obviously the 3 different lots, was there no way to do it? I guess, are they still separate lots? Each of these homes, if these are a separate kind of townhome, will still be on that specific lot. It won't be viewed as one large parcel.
Correct. They're separate lots.
I was trying to think through if there's a way to still have a single point of access. It just seems very excessive in the urban core to have that much pavement along the roadway. I guess this is where I have a concern. I understand where you're coming from, but it's just kind of very out of character with that area.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm having the same struggle. It looks like, you know, there might be other options available to you in the backyard somehow. So that coupled with the dramatic change in the neighborhood, I'm just one board member, but I'm not comfortable with that.
So I can kind of address that a little. I was on the phone with a resident in the area yesterday, and there's a daycare facility behind these lots. And I was explaining to her what we were trying to do, and she agreed that the front parking is better for that daycare, so there's not vehicles next to that daycare where the kids are playing. If you guys do want to consider that.
I appreciate that insight. I mean, I think it's good to know. Obviously, we don't know if that daycare will be there forever as well. So once we allow that kind of additional parking in the front, that may be a non-issue, I suppose, but thank you for the insight.
A question, do you folks have any idea when the houses that were there, when were they removed or raised or torn down? How long have they been empty lots?
I honestly don't know the answer. I know a lot of the lots that we have purchased, like, you know, the early 2000s, there was a lot of houses in that area tore down then.
Right, and each one of these lots will require new water service mains?
No, they won't.
That's great.
As far as, you know, not the main out in the street, just water service to the unit, but not as far as any main in the front.
Right. Just a note, I've watched in my experience, so maybe the last 25 to 30 years, you know, group after group after group try to come through, you know, the denser areas in Kansas City and do these infill projects. And to date, every single one of them has just failed to be able to figure out a recipe that works. So your task is a bit overwhelming, but interesting that that came out of a Chicago competition. Maybe you guys will come up with something that actually works in filling in all these empty lots.
Yeah, you know, we haven't tried to apply for a variance, obviously, of, you know, with this style product, so we didn't really know what we were up against. I think it's the challenge for all of us to try to find a affordable product that we can build on a small lot to make the numbers work. Because obviously, you guys know, we can, like you said, we can get rid of a unit, and lose a lot, and it all just raises the sales price to the end user and just makes them more expensive. But, you know, obviously we could lose that and put the parking next to the building. But like I said, it's just going to be a challenge for anybody to try to come up with a product that people can afford, because these houses are just getting so crazy expensive down there.
Am I reading this correctly? You're saying there's one living unit per floor. So in theory, I can buy one of these buildings and rent out the other 2 floors to another, like, 2 families?
Yes, sir. Yeah, this style setup was kind of used for a multi-generational house as well. Like maybe the parents lived on the main floor and you had kids upstairs, or like you said, the buyer was able to rent out the other space, and it would work out really good for them for a cash flow type of setup. But it was also a big deal with the multi-generational housing as well.
How many cars can park on each one of those parking pads?
I believe just 3. I think if I understand correctly, it's 1 space per unit off the street. So we would have three units there, 3 spaces.
I have a question for staff on that point of the number of units. Would the lot size comply if they were one is purchased and 2 units are rented?
Are you asking if the lot and building standards change based on whether or not a property is rented or owned?
I guess that's part of it. And if we've got three units there, are the lot sizes adequate for 3? I take it they are, since we're not asking for a variance on that.
I believe they are, based on my review, because of the R 1.5 zoning district allowances.
Okay, thank you.
Well, is anybody
Michael, I have a
prepared?
question.
Go ahead.
Does each unit have a separate entryway?
Yes, so there will be a shared front door. So when you walk in, so the home is going to look like a single family home from the street. So we have a couple different versions. One, you could just walk into a single front door off the corner that will look like a normal front door of a single family home. And then you walk into like a 5x5 type of entryway. And then you have a set of stairs that goes down to that basement unit. You have stairs that go up to the upper unit, and then you have a door on the side of the entryway that would go to the main level unit. So it's going to look more like a modern single family home from the street versus a triplex unit.
It might be a crazy question, but do they each have their own separate heating and air conditioning?
Yes, sir. Yeah, everything would be separate, and I believe it would be like a multi-unit house zoning. I believe. I know there's a lot of different ways that you can apply for these. There's multi-unit and multiplex and a bunch of different things. But yes, they would all have their own services, so each unit could be sold separate, which is our intent, is to sell each unit, and then we would have to set up an HOA that would maintain the exterior of the buildings and the grounds and all of that stuff, because there would be 3 owners. There could be 3 owners potentially in one building.
Got you. Thank you.
Chairman, my apologies. There was a miscalculation. They are under about 396 square feet, which was about 132 square feet per unit that they would need a variance for. That was in my error, and I can make that addition to the presentation and staff report.
Ma'am, so is that I was not aware of that. Is that on the lot size itself? I think you're muted.
Correct. So the lot size itself, we can go through this together. The square footage we have on file is for 4,104 square feet. The minimum required lot area for our 1.5 is 3,000, but per unit is 1,500. So 1,500 times 3 would not allow you the space in the 4,100 square feet that you currently have to do what's being proposed without a variance to that. And that would be, as I understand it, for each property that you all are considering. So that would be the same for 430.
Is that in the multi-unit zoning code?
That would be in the lot and building standards for our residential use structures or residential structures. Come again?
But if we're applying as a multi-unit house, doesn't that, I thought that lowered the amount of square footage per lot per unit, depending on how we were applying for a permit. I was thinking in the multi-unit house, it was more like 1,200 feet per unit, but I could be mistaken. Because we wouldn't be applying as just a residential structure in R1.5, we'd be applying as a multi-unit house, I believe.
One moment, please.
While she's looking at that, do I understand you to say you plan to sell a total of 9 different parcels out of this project?
Yes, sir.
3 parcels per building?
Yeah, I mean, we have investors standing in line that would buy these things, but that's not our intent. Our intent's to try to come up with a affordable product that we can sell retail each unit. So yes, ultimately, and it's not just for these, it's, trying to work together to try to figure out how we can come up with a product that we can do this, all over the place, but probably with the amount of coverage, that may not be something that, people want to see, but we thought that this area, we own the lots directly across the street from this project. And then the Bancroft School is right across the street. So there's not a lot going on. There is the one house to the right of this project. And then there's a bunch of empty lots next to him. And then we own the stuff across the street. So we thought, it would be a pretty decent area to compress a few of these, these 3 lots together. Not replanting them. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What's going on behind the property?
That is that's Truce, isn't it? I think that's Truce. There's daycare and a coffee shop, I believe, and some commercial stuff directly behind it.
Yeah, I'm talking about, there's some lots there shown on this, on your drawing. There's some lots, single lots, it would appear, that adjoin the back property line. What's on those lots?
And we may need to pull that up, but the rear, directly to the rear, is commercial. To the south, which would be to the left of the buildings, there are residential that would back up to the farmost south lot, but directly behind it are commercial structures.
What kind of commercial?
The daycare, and I think it was a coffee shop that's there.
Okay.
Okay, I have some clarity to provide for that. He's correct. There's a daycare and a coffee shop and other commercial units directly behind these properties. In terms of the multi-unit, I'm not sure where you gathered that information about less square footage per unit requirements. The unit requirements are the same unless you go through a variance process or a larger development plan process at the start of your project. I know you mentioned lots across the street as well. Since you brought that up, we do allow for accessory parking to be off-site if the zoning is the same, so you all have that option. And in terms of parking requirements, I'm going to share my screen briefly so we can understand verbatim what the code says about surface parking for multi-unit structures. As you can see, what they're proposing would be considered unacceptable, not only by the standards of the vehicular use area for residential district standards, but by the lot and building standards as well. And so they would have to still go through this process, and these are the only other acceptable methods for parking in this type of housing. If you all want.
Nazma, I'm not sure I understand what your point is. You said, when you say they would have to go through these other.
This is the process. This is the proper process, this meeting right now. But what they're suggesting before about the square footage per unit, that was my error that I did not include it in the staff report. But in order for them to have less square footage per unit, they would have to go through a variance process. And so we can add that variance on for this particular property at 4330 Forest today. And they would still need to receive those variances for their other properties that they're suggesting the same parking layout and unit numbers for.
Sarah, can we grant a variance that wasn't advertised?
Najma, did the advertisements include language stating any additional variances needed?
I will double check.
I think here's what I would say. In this case, if the site plan accurately reflected, the size of the lot and what was being proposed here, then I think it would be okay if that language was included.
The language is included.
Okay.
Okay. Well, to the applicant, I would just make one more comment, and that is I do a lot of work in the area of development, and I'm not giving you legal advice, but I'm suggesting to you that you're not going to be able to sell fee simple title to those units individually unless you do this entire project as a condominium.
Yeah, I was also told we could do it as a condo or as a townhome. So I haven't explored that farther, but I did know that we may have to, we need to apply for these properly to get started with, obviously. But yeah, we're going to set up a HOA, like I said, to take care of all the exterior maintenance and all of that. But yes, we would have to condo or townhome it out.
So for clarity on those two processes, the condo would have to go through a minor subdivision platting process, and a townhome by definition is divided by a vertical plane. And so the design of the home would have to be altered in order to meet those requirements.
So all that to say that you're not in a position right now to be asking for variances to square footage requirements and all of that, right? You're not at that level of planning in your process. Is that right?
It sounds like I'm getting a good education on what we're supposed to be doing is what is coming out of this. So sounds like I need to backtrack a little bit and should have went at this a different direction. But I guess, it hasn't been a complete waste of time because I'm trying to figure out, what can we do on one of these smaller lots to try to, help our cost and the sales price. So, it sounds like, I obviously knew, I saw in the multi-unit housing, the side and the rear parking, but I just didn't know what kind of latitude, if any, that we had on that code. So I wanted to find out.
Understood. Well, I guess it's up to the chair and you on how to proceed here.
Yeah, I would offer a suggestion to you that you continue this case for at least a month to allow you to maybe talk to an attorney and get some better ideas on what you're going to have to go through here.
Okay.
But that's up to you.
Well, if we continue it and we start going through the evaluation of the correct process and we see that, hey, it's not going to work, then we can always cancel it at that time, I would assume, right?
No.
Are you referring to the case? Are you referring to canceling the case we're speaking of right now? It would, if it's not determined by the board to move forward, the board would have to dismiss it as they've already heard it. They just have to dismiss the case. As for the other two cases, since those have not been acted on, they can be voided.
It sounds like I honestly didn't realize I was up against the square footage issue as well. I don't know, I must have misinterpreted or read wrong because I tried to go through the building standards and everything for multi-unit housing. So I did not know I was up against that issue as well. So it sounds like I'm up against a bunch of different issues. So it sounds like I just need to regroup and try to figure something out that's not so challenging for all these different variances.
And
I would suggest you move that to August 9th or maybe September 13 and see where we stand there. And if you decide to pull the plug, we can always just dismiss the case at that point, sir. But then you're still be on the docket if you want to continue it.
Okay.
And Najma, did you, when you were doing the lot area, did you get what the variance would need to be? Is it 396 square feet?
Correct. And then that would, considering the units, we'll just apply it to each unit or divide it by 3, essentially.
But it was the 4,500 is what's required and 4,104 is what they've got.
Correct.
Okay, so it's a very minimal amount of a variance on that lot area. Just so you folks know that while we're here.
But the point also is, Najma, didn't you say they'd be looking at an entirely different process if they decide they have to do a condominium?
That'd be an additional process. They would have to plat it. In terms of whether or not that has to happen before or after, I believe those things can happen concurrently. One just would be dependent on the other. If their intent is to do a condo plat, then they'd have to have a plat completed before selling the property or before certificate of occupancy. That does not change what's happening today unless you all do not grant the variance for the square footage, and this has nothing to do with the initial variance of the parking allowances in the front yard.
Okay, so now I'm wondering even further. So if the variance is required to make the site plan work as we're seeing it now, if that were approved, then the condominium process would just be a matter of setting those things up in a legal manner, whatever's required, but there wouldn't be any impediments to moving forward.
Do you mean on voting on the variances that we're discussing today?
Yes, all of them as necessary. Once that's in place, then the condominium process, there wouldn't be, for lack of a better term, any deal killers in that process. It would be simply going through the process, platting, having that approved and understood through the various commissions. Is that correct?
Correct. This is in reference to the building itself, again, the structure, not the parking.
Yes, because the condominium wouldn't address the parking. That would be so. So that being said, this is the proper sequence of events, or a proper sequence of events. If they were successful with those variances, then they could move that forward into the condominium process, and result would be they'd have the 3 condominiums that they could put up for sale. Am I getting that right?
As it's been presented today, that sounds correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It seems like if we're gonna have to get these variances or request these variances, no matter how we propose it, it seems like we just need to talk about it now. And if it's not, before we go and try to move forward on a whole bunch of other stuff, if we need these variances, it sounds like you said, this is the proper first step.
So as Mr. Stiller has alluded to, I'm just one board member, but we're giving a giant variance to the front yard for paved parking in anticipation that you can kind of redevelop the site in order to make it work for you. That's why I'm, again, just one board member, but I'd rather see you push this to August or September to see how far you're getting along in the other process. So if we grant you 100% variance in the front yard, then the next guy comes along, and even though you don't develop your project, sir, we get the comment, well, you gave these guys 100%, why don't you give us 100%? We've denied front yard parking around maybe 55th and Grand a couple of years ago. And they had a good motivation to do it as well. I get what you're trying to do, but I'm not sure today is the right day, at least for me to vote to do it.
That's exactly where I am. I'm not in a position where I'm going to vote to turn the front yards of these residential lots into parking lots right now. So based on what I've seen.
So maybe during that month, you could pursue the remainder of the processes, understand, timeframes, costs, obstacles, those things. And if you're still confident that this is a doable situation, understanding some of the things that we've been talking about, then maybe that would give the other board members some confidence that that the thing would be completed per the variances, if I'm understanding my colleagues properly.
Sure,
I think you are, Mr. Stiller. And I think the bottom line here is that there's very little likelihood you're going to get a passage today. So you better, if you want to proceed, you're probably better off continuing.
And
Yeah,
Mr.
I-
Vice
it looks
Chair,
like-
there's still public testimony to be had.
From,
Vicki Smith, she has raised her hand in the meantime, so you need to swear her in and allow her an opportunity to speak on this matter as well before you conclude with this case.
I thought I asked earlier for interested parties. Did I forget to do that?
You did. She just came in late.
Oh, okay. Well, Ms. Smith, welcome to the party. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear a testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, tell us what you would like to see. First of all, where do you reside?
Well, I own the property, the daycare building that you've been referring to, and I have an 11-year experience with those 3 lots. Because when I bought the daycare, those 3 lots were the playground for the daycare, and they had been for 30 years. And we continued to use it for the last 11 years until I think Mr. Schrammer came before this group before. And he bought it without ever discussing it with us. So I was on the phone with this new group that bought it from Ben. They were much more considerate of the neighborhood and the neighbors, and I appreciate that immensely. So I'm just trying to put a face on what's happening there. I had some of the same concerns that I've heard the board express today. And I wasn't going to say anything. I just wanted to listen and trust the process as much as I can. But I did want to add also that when Ben Schromber from Town Crown Properties bought the building initially, or the 3 lots initially, I'm sorry, last August, he asked me to sign an affidavit for a variance for the size of a lot that he, at that time, said the 2 of the lots were within the lot size because they were similar to the lots that were to the south of it. But that one lot at variance application 4332 and 4334 Forest for the requested lot width variance of a 1.5 feet. So this variance issue on the lot size was addressed before. So just wanted to let you know that. And I'm very sad, angry. I've been through all the grief process for losing our playground, but it is what it is, and you're doing what you have to do. So we're looking forward to having new neighbors that are as friendly and community oriented as this group seems to be. Thank you for listening.
Ms. Smith, where's your daycare? Is that right? Is it on Forest or is it behind it?
It's on Troost. So yeah, the former owners that had their playground there for 30 years, when they went into bankruptcy. And when I bought the daycare, I thought the playgrounds were included, but the bankruptcy didn't include those 3 lots because they were considered, oh, you'll love this phrase, they were considered not valuable enough to sell them because the taxes for those 3 lots at that time were less than $10 a year. And that's more history than is pertinent to this case, I know, but I just want you to know that there's real people that live around there. When they call it a product, their homes, their people, and I feel for them.
Thank you.
Okay, applicant, what's your pleasure? Do you want us to vote or do you want to continue?
I think we're up against more brick walls here than I thought. I knew, what we were up against with the front parking. I think we should just cancel it. We have some other lots that we can try to figure the parking out on. I think this was good to just try to get I guess one thing is, how do you all feel about the multi-unit structure itself with the 3 units in one building, aside from, if we get the parking figured out in other areas, is your guys' temperature okay with 3 units in a residential looking structure like that?
Well, we really can't give you advice on without having specifics. I'm sure that we would approve such a plan if all the conditions were right, but without knowing the exact nature of those conditions, we'd be speculating.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think because obviously, we're not trying to propose, our hardship was just trying to get the 3 units to try to get something more affordable, but obviously we can build single family homes on the lot. So I think we'll just go that direction, and then we'll try to figure this out on some of our other lots. And
so you're requesting that we dismiss the case?
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. This case is dismissed. Good luck.
Take care.
Mr. Chair, docket item number 16 is ready to be heard again.
Okay, would the applicants please raise your hand if you're not already joined?
Jamie, Josh, and Crystal are all back.
Okay, help me with what docket number was that?
16.
16. Okay.
Case number 47.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so tell us what you've been able to determine.
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have another go at this. So since our last conversation earlier, we did verify some measurements on the site and also provided that in our site plan to determine the variance request distance that we're requesting. Here's a site plan again with a little bit further details. Right now, the existing structure is 5'6" from the property line. The area highlighted in question is 5'3" from the property line. The setback on this side, because it is a corner lot, is 15 feet. So the variance that we're requesting for the south side is 9'6".
9.6.
Correct.
And that's variance A.
It would be 9.5, but it's 9 feet 6
9.5,
inches.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. What else? Anything else we got?
As far as dimensionally, again, these secondary structures that touch all northwest and south sides of the lot that we are not doing any work on. Those are still touching the property line currently. As you can see here, these are the additional structures on the property. Here's a street view again. You can see that structure sits right on the boundary line there. I didn't know if that was going to cause, if there was any way to do, oh, I'm sorry, I'm opening wrong. If this variance that we're requesting for the main house would also need to be 100% because of that existing property in order for it to be brought into compliance.
I think I would have a question for Sarah in that regard moving forward. If you're granting variances to the accessory structure versus the primary structure in terms of the street side yard setback, is that a variance we'd want to carry with the primary structure of X amount? And then secondarily, if we wanted to grant a variance to an accessory structure through a separate variance request?
Najma,
Oh, sorry.
I think we need a variance, and Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, for the primary structure and the secondary structure.
Okay, I thought so. Just making sure that understanding was had by the board.
And I did want to say, this wasn't anticipated to be, we didn't realize that these setbacks were because we were primarily doing interior, and this was just a rebuild and reframing partially of this structure. When this came up, we did order a survey and pay for the $2,400 survey fee. We haven't received the actual official drawings yet. We were told 6 to 9 weeks, which is why we produced this site plan so that we could try to not be waiting 2 more months because of the time constraints that we mentioned earlier. So we did proceed as soon as we knew that we needed that, but we have not received the drawings back from the survey company, which is Stricken Company.
What's the measurement for the zoning for variance request B to the rear yard setback?
The request would be to 100% variance. The rear yard setback requirement for this lot would be, give me 1 second, I'll give you an exact number. 29 feet, so the variance would be in the amount of 29 feet. And again, that can be to the accessory structure. Is this secondary structure for a vehicle? Does it have any vehicular use?
It doesn't. It's actually currently a residence. The property. Sorry.
You said it's a residence, as in it's an occupied space, the carriage house is?
So the structure is a combination of a garage and a guest house, carriage house there. So the side that the property that the part of the building that faces Missouri Avenue is a residence, and then the part that faces the alleyway is a garage.
So between the main house and this small square structure is a drive there. Early in this project, the sellers did not disclose that this was zoned as a triplex as well. So early on in this project, we also went through rezoning for the use to put this back as a single family dwelling. And that was part of it as well.
Did we come up with a number for variance B?
Okay, so the variances would be, and I can type these out into the PowerPoint if necessary. So just for clarity, one moment. The variance would be up to 5 feet 3 inches for the primary structure for the street side yard setback, and 100% of the required setback for the street yard setback for the secondary structure, as well as for the rear yard setback for the secondary structure. And I'll type that out now so that we have it. Give me a brief moment here.
That makes me think, do we need to have this new site plan added as an exhibit?
Yes.
Okay.
This is exhibit 11 for the updated plans. And Crystal, you need to email those to Najma, your PowerPoint and the updated plan.
Okay, the original PowerPoint I did submit into the Compass KC. Should I email it as well?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We'll show exhibit 11 as admitted. Any more questions from board members? If not, is there a motion?
Was Najma still?
Yep, she's still working on her PowerPoint presentation, so you guys can see the variances.
Okay.
So I
wording.
stopped sharing my screen.
Yes, please.
So, Mr. Chairman, the motion would have to be variance A in the amount of 9.9 feet 6 inches, and variance B 100% variance to the rear yard setback. Is that, am I getting that right?
For the accessory structure.
I'm sorry, I'm just confused by variance B in the staff report. It's talking about a minimum rear yard setback. So it's,
Yeah, I'm equally confused.
Yeah, that's why we need to wait for the new language to be displayed on the screen, since
Okay.
Good point.
the language in the staff report is now outdated.
Okay, good.
Chairman, while we're waiting for her, we've got about 3 more cases. I'd like to continue through these as opposed to doing a lunch break, just FYI.
Okay, I think everybody would concur.
Yep.
I will thank you on behalf of those other 3 people because I know the waiting is very difficult. So I appreciate it and appreciate all of their patience while we have been a hold up here.
You're quite welcome.
Not sure the relevance of this, but on the west side, so the rear setback where that secondary structure is placed, it backs up to an alley there and not another residential lot. There's an alley between those two sites.
Mr. Ballard, Ms. Laborman, would you like us to take one more case while you're working on this, or are you about there?
I believe it's city staff we're waiting on.
It is. If you could share your screen and the site plan one more time, just so that I can make sure the language is correct.
Okay, I'm getting very poor reception. What was your preference?
There we go. She's doing it. That's what I need. Thank you.
So do we need to identify this as Exhibit 12?
No, she's already presented this,
Okay, all right.
Chairman.
Right now, we're working with Najma's updating her part of this.
Okay.
Okay, you can stop sharing your screen. I'll share mine. Thank you. Okay. The variances we now have before us are two separate sets of variances, and this needs to be clear. The variances for the primary structure to the street side yard setback, they're requesting a variance of up to 9 feet 9 inches from the requirement to allow for a street side yard setback for the primary structure of 5 feet 3 inches. The next one is to the rear yard setback. They're requesting a full rear yard setback variance technically because the building is already there. This one is less important. Variance C is for the accessory structure. Accessory structures must be set back 1.5 feet at the minimum from the rear of the property line. And they're requesting a rear yard setback of 0 feet. So that's 1.5 feet for the accessory structure. Variance D, the accessory structure on corner lots can be no closer to the street than the primary structure. And so it is reflective of the first variance that for 5.25 feet or 5 feet 3 inches. Do you all have any questions regarding these variances?
Can we label this Exhibit 12, or is this an amendment to your staff report?
I probably have to amend the staff report completely. This can be labeled as Exhibit 12, although it's a part of my original exhibit number 9 or 8. I can't remember for this case now.
Okay, well, let's, for clarity purposes, call this Exhibit 12 so that anybody who makes a motion can refer to it.
I'll also say for clarity, I'm going to remove variance B. I don't think it's necessary. And my apologies for the lack of clarity. Doing a site review on spot is a little difficult. So I'm going to rename these variances A, B, and C. The variances for the variance for the primary structure is variance A, and the variances for the accessory structure are variances B and C.
Okay, we'll call this revised document Exhibit 12, and so that any member who wishes to refer to it in a motion can do so. And does anyone have any more questions? If not, I'd accept a motion.
This is docket 16, right?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, in case number 47, I move that the applicant's request be granted in accordance with this site plan and the variance requests listed in Exhibit 12.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your application has been granted. Good luck.
Thank you all so much.
You're welcome. Okay, moving on to docket number 23, which is case number 58. The property address is 4338 Terrace Street. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
Lonnie has raised their hand. And Danny Waddle. Lonnie and Danny need to accept the promotions. Danny has been connected, and so has Lonnie.
Okay, so if you are both going to testify, would you please raise your right hand and be sworn? Mr. Shanks, you are muted. Okay, and who's the second person? I don't see them.
Danny Waddell is with me.
Ah,
He
there-
won't be testifying.
Okay, I see him. Are you going to testify, Danny?
No.
Okay. Mr. Shanks, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And have you reviewed your staff report? Do you have any objection to exhibits 1 through 9 listed on the last page?
I do not.
We'll show those exhibits admitted, and one of which is a PowerPoint. Would staff please present that?
Absolutely. Give me 1 second here to share my screen. Okay, before us, we have docket item number 23. This is case number CD-BZA 2022-00058, located at 4338 Terrace Street, zoning district R-2.5. The applicant is seeking approval of a variance to the rear yard setback requirements and the side yard setback requirements. This is the location of the subject site. In relation to the rest of the city, it's within the confines of the Midtown Plaza area plan. More specifically, it's on Terrace Street between 44th and 43rd Street. You can see it there just west of Roanoke Parkway. So this is an image of the proposal once it's completed. There is currently a garage on the subject site. Their proposal is to tear that garage down and build this garage with a connected breezeway. Similar to the case I presented most recently, if you remember, where the garage was allowed to encroach in the rear yard setback, but once it's connected, it will be considered attached and therefore has to go by the primary structure standards, and so therefore we're be encroaching this. And this is the breezeway you can see here. This is the site plan. You can see the existing garage over here in white, and then the outline of the proposed breezeway in blue. A few notes on this. So they are seeking a variance to the rear setback requirements as well as the side setback, but I will note that this setback shown is not accurate. It should just be 3.4 feet over here and 3.4 feet on the north as well. So actually they're seeking an existing a setback variance for the northern portion of the existing structure, and then two setback variances, one for the rear and one for the southern side for the garage and breezeway. So these are the case factors for each variance. So variance A is the rear yard setback. That's a 24.5 feet setback request. A substantial change to the character of the neighborhood is not anticipated. The garage could not be built in the rear yard without a variance as a connected structure. This is variance B for the side yard setback of the proposed structure. It would be a 2.2 foot variance. A substantial change to the character of the neighborhood is not anticipated. The change in design would be necessary to obviate the need for a variance. And then the third, variance C, is an existing condition. So it would be a 1.75 foot variance. A substantial change to the character of the neighborhood is not anticipated. The existing structure could not obviate the need for a variance. With that, I will conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Board members, any questions for staff? If not, Mr. Shanks, please tell us why we should grant your variance.
Yes, sir. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
And is the Alex Roach or Jake Roach, have they raised their hand?
There is an Alex, no last name, that's raised their hand. I have promoted them. Oh,
Well, I would like-
and a Jake Roach also just joined the meeting, it appears.
So Alex and Jake are husband and wife and are owners of the construction firm and my client and Mrs. Dill's contractor.
Okay. Do you
And
know if they're in the same room? Sorry.
I am here. I raised my hand. I apologize. Hopefully it let me in.
Yep, you're in.
Okay, perfect.
so
Does Jake want to provide testimony as well?
He's trying to log on. His phone is acting wonky, so we'll proceed without him and I'll do enough talking for the both of us.
So what I'd like to do is give Alex just a minute to give you guys a quick overview of the client. She has a more personal relationship with them and will be able to give a better testimony on the situation. Go ahead, Alex, take it away.
Well, then Alex needs to be sworn in.
Alex, before you testify, I need you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't see your picture. Do you have your camera on? There you go.
Can you see me now? Sorry.
Yes. Okay, please tell us why we should grant your application.
Yes, so Miss Dill has been a longstanding member of her neighborhood, and unfortunately, she's traveling back from visiting her mom for the first time in 18 months due to COVID. So she was not able to join us on this additional hearing, so she sends her apologies. But she has lived in this residence for a long time and has aged. And so her goal with this would be to be able to connect her home to her garage so she can have a safe way to get from the exterior of her home into her garage, because right now she has to go down a couple steps and across her yard in order to access it. And with her or snow, she was hoping that there'd be a way to connect the two structures so she can just have a safe way to access her car. I do know that she has talked to quite a few neighbors, more specifically one house next door just recently sold, but the lady and her had been friends for over 20 years. And, you know, with it not really changing anything about the neighborhood or really being able to see the addition from the street, no one's really put up any red flags or anything for her to not be able to connect her house safely with the garage.
Guys, would you mind if I jump in and add a little bit to this now?
Who's speaking?
This is Lonnie.
Oh, yes, you may.
So that's a really good explanation of what Ms. Dill is hoping to accomplish. I'd like to add a little bit to that. The existing garage is your typical carriage garage that we've all are very familiar with in these areas. The garage is in really poor shape right now. I would go as far as to say it's bordering on structural failure. It's leaning, everything is in pretty bad shape. She can barely fit her car in it right now. There's absolutely no storage. She's a little bit worried about it. So in our attempt to give her the changes she needs, we were going to tear the garage down and rebuild it in the same spot, but slightly larger. So she'll have a little bit more space. With that, I'll leave it at you guys.
Okay. Board members have any questions?
Alex or Lonnie, any neighborhood opposition? I heard you say the house next door sold. There was no opposition before. Any other neighbors?
No, sir, not that she's received.
Well, then I would ask if there is anyone having an interest in this case that would like to testify. Please raise your hand.
No one is raising their hand.
Okay, then I think we're ready for a motion.
Chairman Kelleher, in case number 58, I recommend the applicant be granted their request in accordance with the site plan and staff report.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Well, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. Your application is granted. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Case number or docket number 25 is case number 19. The property address is 8820 Indiana Avenue. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
I believe we continued this one at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to write that down. Well, we're to docket number 27, case number 25. The address is 3901 North Wayne. Would the applicant please raise their hand?
And Brett, is the 636 phone number your backup line?
Yes, that is.
Okay, so Mr. Vice Chair, it appears the applicant is not in the meeting right now.
Okay.
Were they in the meeting before?
I haven't been keeping track.
I'm sorry, would you please repeat that?
I asked her if they had been in the meeting before.
No, I didn't hear the answer. That's what I need.
I haven't seen them in the participants, but I also haven't been following for them.
Okay.
Chairman Keller, since this was from our early May meeting and carryover, I'd recommend we just move it to June to give the applicant another opportunity.
Okay, with or without a fee?
I'd say no fee on this one.
All right. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes with the motion. This matter is continued until June 14th without fee. And I believe that concludes all of the items on the docket, and we will adjourn our public session for the board to consider internal matters.
Anna, the docket mentions an annual report. Is that something you're going to present?
Yep, that's Jared.
Okay, well, I'd just be happy to get started then. Give me 1 second here to share my screen. Okay.
Is this to be on the record as well?
I don't know how that works. Sarah? You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. It really doesn't have to be on the record, but no one's going to appeal, I don't think.
Man, I hope not.
So it's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so before us, we have the BZA 2021 annual report, which I am happy to be presenting to you before the halfway mark of 2022. So this report was written with the goal of serving not only as a meaningful reflection of the BZA's operations, but also as a valuable tool for our staff. We spend much of our time when we aren't in hearings consulting with applicants to help them better understand the BZA's role. One of the most common questions we get in pre-application meetings is, will this variance be granted? To which we normally say, we can't speak for the board. You'll have to present your hardship, etc. But now we will also have this data as a resource to help inform applicants as well. So this is a graph showing the BZA's caseload per year. As you can see, the BZA had a busy year in 2021, experiencing an influxes in cases that exceeded the 3 years prior. There were a greater number of BZA cases, and there were also a greater number of SUP cases in 2021 that you can see here. A note on terminology that I'm using. When I say BZA cases, I'm specifically referring to cases who exclusively go before the BZA, such as variances, special exceptions, appeals, and rehearings, as opposed to SUPs, which also go before CPC. The exact reason for the increase in caseload for the BZA are unknown, but staff believes it might be tied to the trending increase in the amount of building permits, which were 15% higher in 2021 than the previous 4-year average. So this is a diagram illustrating where each of the 253 applications made in 2021 ended up. Of the applications applied for, 66 were either voided by staff for being duplicates or being the wrong application type, etc., or being canceled by the customer. From there, 187 cases were valid applications to be heard by the BZA. So of those, 124 received approval, 23 were denied, 14 were dismissed, and 26 were incomplete at the time of the report being written. There is a high proportion of cases that were approved, which staff believes is due to the lengthy screening process that potential variance cases go through before application is ever made. We also thought it was interesting to dive into the denials by case type. So this is a pie chart showing a breakdown of the cases that were denied in 2021. Staff also believes that the proportion of denials corresponds with the fact that when the BZA is presented with a case that it doesn't find approvable, they often continue the case and ask applicants to come back with a new design with fewer variances, etc. I think this idea is supported by this pie chart, which shows that of the cases that were denied in 2021, 56% of those could not be altered in nature in terms of the requests. Those case types being appeals of determination, appeals of CLNU, and requests for rehearings, which you can see make up a large proportion of the denials. Variances, SUPs, and special exceptions made up the remainder of the denials in 2021. So this is just a breakdown of the applications by type that went before the board. Largest proportion of those being principal building setback variances. This means that more than a quarter of all applications included a request for a principal building setback variance. Special use permits had the second highest amount of variance requests at 18%. So this chart is meant to show how efficiently the Board of Adjustment operated in 2021. It's a bit complicated, but I'm happy to walk through it. So the bars on the left side of each month represent the cases on the docket for that month's hearing, where the portion of those bars in gray represents cases that were docketed from years prior to 2021. So you can see as the year went on, the proportion of current cases in the dark green goes up, which is what you want to see. The light green on the right represents how many of those cases were decided upon by the board. What this means is that the smaller the distance between the left bar and the right bar for each month, the more efficiently the board heard the docket, basically. So as the year went on, the board received a dedicated staff, which made up of Anna, Najma, and myself, which happened around August. And you can see the board began operating more efficiently on average at that time. Also visible in the chart is what we as staff refer to as the surge. I'm sure everyone remembers, which happened in September and October. This sudden influx in cases necessitated operational changes, including the holding of supplemental hearings in October and November, and permanently changed the starting time of BZA hearings to 9 a.m. so that we can get through the full docket. This chart shows the average amount of time that applications spend in the BZA system. Most applications go directly to the BZA. Most applications that go directly to the BZA take between 1 and 2 months to be decided upon. It takes at least a minimum of 1 month because, as the board knows, there's a legal obligation to make notification to all property owners and post a sign on the property. Special use permits, which are represented in gray, take an average of 4 to 5 months because they first must go to the City Planning Commission, which is at minimum a 6-week process. This graph shows the percentage of variance applicants by category, those categories being private citizens, LLCs, companies, public institutions, and nonprofits. The variance process is used as a tool for property owners to address unnecessary hardships or practical difficulties related to the standards of the development code. For the majority of citizens who make variance applications, it's the first time they've interacted with the BZA. The data displayed in this figure demonstrates that variances are overwhelmingly applied for by private citizens, making up 63% of all applicants. LLCs make up the next largest variance applicant pool, followed by companies and then the public, and finally nonprofits. And then this graph shows the land use category that the variances applied for fell into in 2021. 70% of those were for single family residential housing. Commercial variances had the next largest proportion, then multifamily, public use, schools, and utilities. So with an increased caseload, supplemental hearing dates, new permanent planning positions staffing the board, 2021 was a very demanding year for the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Given the increase in activity exemplified in the figures presented before the board today, and in the interests of improvement, our staff has resolved to commit to two action items for 2022. The first is meant to address a trend that can be observed in this figure before you. Last year saw a dramatic increase in the number of appeals filed with the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Of the appeals applied for since 2018, 44%, or nearly half, were applied for in 2021. To accommodate this upward trend in appeal applications, our staff has committed to operational changes with the goal of better serving appeal customers. These changes include offering post-application meetings as a courtesy to appeal customers, as we currently don't require any meetings be held prior to the BZA hearing for these applications, or at least we didn't in 2021. We believe that the early communication with these customers will lead to better resolution for all parties involved. The second action item we did not decide upon and left it up to the board. So I'll hand it over to you all for discussion and any questions you might have for me. And then if you have any ideas for action items for 2022, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
I just want to point out, thank you for pulling that together. I love data, and I think it's really fun to actually see how these cases are affected and where people are coming from in the city and how it's all going. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, of course. I love data too, if you can't tell.
Thank you, Jared. How are we looking on 2022, at least on the initial cases, first months?
You know, I haven't kept up with any new graphs for 2022 yet, but I could probably throw something together in the coming months if you'd like to just get a status.
That's all right. Just curious. That's good. Thank you.
Sure.
And just casually, I can probably say that we're seeing those high numbers again for 2022. We had a couple, well, in February, we didn't have a meeting due to lack of court reporter, but in January, March, and April, and May, we've had full dockets, like 30 cases for each month. So you can expect the trend to continue to be high.
Any other
comments? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mike. I guess I had a question at one. I know when you're in person, we used to always have videos. Is there a reason we stopped having those as part of the cases? Or is that just having the applicants now provide that themselves and fewer of them provide that information?
I believe that was part of the application process, and that I believe, Anna, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe staff would go take those videos in the past. That was not part of Anna or myself or Najma's training for the board, and we have not resumed doing that. I believe it was kind of nixed during COVID-19, and then since we were hired after that, it was not a part of it. I'm sure we could learn how to do that again if that is something the board would like to see.
I think some cases it's kind of nice. I feel like people don't necessarily submit enough information to really see. So I'm usually on like Google Maps myself trying to see some more street views, and maybe that could be part of the applicant's process. So I don't know that you all need to do it, but I think for me, it was helpful to get a sense of some of these spaces, especially when you were in person. I didn't have Google Maps in front of me where I could do a street view to kind of get a sense of the neighborhood. Again, I don't know that's something you need to do, but if that can be part of the applicant's process, I think it's helpful for some cases. We see, okay, what does this actually look like from the street? How much is this being impacted? I at least find it beneficial.
I think we could certainly mention that in our pre-application meetings to applicants and just make that a matter of status quo to say that that's something that the board prefers. And I imagine we would see a lot more of that because people are often wanting to know what they can do to better present their case to you also.
I guess there's nobody else, the rest of the board, if you don't all find them beneficial, maybe it's just me, but I don't want to add extra work to applicants then either.
I'm doing the same thing, Randy, where I will sometimes, like today on that Forest case, I'd go into Google Maps and look around the neighborhood and see what else was there. So I agree.
I agree. I thought they were, it was important. I was sad to see them go. I'm just not real vocal right now.
And Tom, I'm okay with, like a street map view. They don't have to go out to each location. I know that was a lot of work to do back in the olden days. So I get it, but I think a street map view, the way Randy does it sometimes, the way I do it sometimes is always beneficial. So Jared, as you're talking to new applicants, maybe they can kind of put that, as you said, part of their proposal. Great.
Yep, agreed.
I think it's completely appropriate for us to start requiring existing photos of the site or a video, whichever is easiest for the applicant to provide any sort of existing conditions, photographs.
Good idea.
Especially since we have a bunch of new timers coming in July and August, I'm guessing.
You hope, yeah. Well, if there's nothing further, then the only remaining item of business is the election of a chairman and a vice chairperson, I guess I should say. I have not signed my letter of resignation. It's sitting on my desk at my office if I ever go there. But it is effective, will be effective July 29th. And I don't have any problem remaining vice chair and serving as chair of any meetings that occur between now and July 29th. On the other hand, it probably makes a whole lot more sense for you all to elect a chair and a vice chair, and then you won't have to go through the process again in August. But I'll defer to your wishes, and I don't intend to make any motions with respect to nominations, so the nominations are open.
To make things easy for Vice Chairman Kelleher, I think that would be nice to have on his resume that he was chairman of BZA, even be it a short period of time. Because Mike, you never know where you need this resume to go with. So that would be my nomination to put Michael Kelleher as chair of BZA.
I would second that.
Well, that's a very nice sentiment. I appreciate. I hadn't even thought of that, and I probably will not need it on my resume unless it is to get into heaven. So,
well, good idea.
All right. Well, let's do that then, and I guess we should vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, and chair votes with the motion. Vice chair, nominations are open.
I nominate Mr. Ebbets to be elevated to the vice chair position. If he's willing to serve.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Can I say something? Do I have to take it?
No.
Too late. Too late. It's already too late.
Aye.
Did you actually want to say something, Mark? Okay.
Just say I accept. That's all you need to say.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Well, I hate to leave the board. I enjoy it very much, but I'm leaving it in good hands, so I don't feel any remorse. Anything else for the good of the group?
Hey, Sarah, how we doing on filling the voids? as they start to occur.
I have not heard anything from the mayor's office. Anna, I don't know if you or Diane have heard.
Yeah, we've had a meeting with the staff person who is responsible for coordinating those appointments with the mayor. And they're working on it. We've sent them the appropriate information, but other than having that initial meeting to get the ball rolling, we have not heard back from them.
And I reached out to, what's her name, Althea? Is that her name?
Correct.
And I got her contact information, and she noted, I've been trying to do like an underground grassroots effort, and if I know a planner or another architect, and trying to get people to apply. So I know one person applied. I don't know what will happen from there, but she recommended that if we know somebody that has applied, to email her to let her know, so they can go into the system and look for the application, since they don't check them very frequently.
Yeah, I would mention that I was more or less recruited for the board by another attorney. So, I mean, if anyone knows anybody who they think would be qualified and interested, give that name to the mayor's office.
And I do have the link if anybody needs it, for the actual application. You submit your resume and kind of fill out a simple form. But let me know if you need that.
Okay.
Would it be possible for you to email that out to us, Randy? Or
Sure can.
put it in the chat? Yeah.
Would you prefer email or just in the chat?
Email.
I'll just email out to the group. That way everybody has it.
Yes.
Very well. I will see you all on June 14th.
See you next month. Thanks, guys.
Flag Day, see you then. Flag Day, gotta have it.
Good holiday.
Next month.
Be safe.
See ya.